Hola, angels. It's Calico again. And this is probably the third, I don't know, in this series of autobiography of an ego. And the only ego I've had is mine, so I'm sharing mine from a very, um, I'm not covering it up, okay? I'm just using myself as an example. And then you can play with these ideas with your own script. Okay, so I had my mom and my dad early years, okay? I was born into a family with a mom and a dad. If you don't have a mom and a dad, you had thoughts that you made up about that as well. But for me, I had dad is angry and mom is sickly. And what I'm seeing now is these two foundational beliefs kind of, because I never healed them. They were just truth as I knew it. And let me just say something here. What we're actually doing here, the metaphor is we're born with virtual reality glasses on, and they're called our eyes, our senses. And this process that A Course in Miracles is talking about is mind training to remove the beliefs that we make up because of what our senses are telling us. It's really like taking off the virtual reality glasses and just being awake in the dream. And you'll know when you're there because you're just happy for no apparent reason. And all I can say is I'm 70 plus years old and I'm still learning. So if you're still in the world, continue learning. It's well worth it. Okay. Um, so let's talk about projection just a little, because it's a key thing in A Course in Miracles. All our thoughts are projections, okay? We project everything, and that's why you have to, first of all, see your thinking thoughts. That's a chair, that's a door, that's a window. There's no judgment with that. You're just stating it, and then they become more specific, like dad is angry, mom is sickly. So now my projections are actually coming from the place of thoughts that I don't want to accept myself. Like, I'm not angry, I'm not sickly. Well, I didn't heal them early on, so I spent the rest of my life playing them out to really get they were my thoughts and about myself. So everything is a projection. All judgments need to be pulled back to see that it is about me in some way. Okay. And it may be a little tricky. I'll use the word contemplation a lot. And this is where, when you can't really see the projection as yours, you really need to contemplate it. I use the word Holy Spirit. You can use the word love, one mind. It's no difference. There's a part of our brain that has the ability to think through love. Then another part of our brain that we rely on mostly and gets developed immensely is this ability to see error in our world, to see things as not okay in our world, to see things from that part of our mind that judges everything. Okay. So the mind training is to really pull it back so that we're really seeing only through love again. The only way we can do that is to clear our thoughts out that are not purely loving. So everything is a projection. All judgments need to be pulled back to see it as about me in some way. All judgments are criticisms, ultimately about myself. And this is the devious thing about judgments. We project them out because we can't stand the thought of saying, I'm judgmental. Just get over it. We all are. It's one ego mind. And I'm just telling you, this ego mind is telling you, pull back all your judgments. They're yours. Forgiveness is always to forgive myself for judging. The Course in Miracles has a little bit of a different take on forgiveness. In the world, it's backwards. In the world, it is, I forgive you for upsetting me. Okay. Instead, Course in Miracles takes it, I forgive myself for upsetting myself. And you may have to do some contemplation on that, because these are very deep mind games that we play with ourselves. And all I can say is spend your life as much as possible in contemplation, because the sooner you clear this, the happier you'll be, because you come out as a loving thought in the mind of God, because that's how we were all born until we got into this world. I liken it to, it's a ride at Disneyland called, I don't know, what should we call it? Forgiveness doesn't sound like fun. Life as an ego, because prior to this, we were all just happy and content in heaven together. We weren't even together. We were one. We were just having a good time. And then someone says, oh, they have this new ride at Disneyland, life as an ego. And I can see myself. I can say, oh, that sounds like fun. Let's do it. Let's do it. So I'm sure I talked a lot of you into separating out and joining me in the birth process. So anyway, all judgments are criticisms, and they're all ultimately about myself. And that's duality, because if I can't see myself as love and perfection, I'm thinking dualistically, and I'm not giving myself love and affection. That's all I can say. Forgiveness is always to forgive myself for judging. All forgiveness is about learning to love me, returning me to the state of perfection prior to me being born into duality. And so judgments, if we don't catch them, it's like I was talking about, I think I've already talked about it, the fear of fat. That was one that I had forever. And I'd see a fat person, I go, oh, I'm glad I'm not that fat. Or I'd see myself in the mirror going, ooh, I need to lose a few pounds. Those are judgments that cause suffering for me. They don't bother anybody else, but they really create havoc in the mind of my godly state. It takes me down from perfection to, I need to work on this. Okay. So the first 5 or so lessons of A Course in Miracles, if you don't know, Course in Miracles has a lesson one day for every day of the year, 365 days. It's 365 lessons. And do one a day. And it's basically the first 200 or so are to deal with how that we are thinking this world that we want to change so desperately. But the changing comes in our mind. And if you're a Course in Miracles student, you may want to look up in your text level confusion, because it's one of those concepts you need to get. You can't change anything in form, and not for a lasting, happily ever after, happily ever eternal change. It's you may, I'll use my own parable. I would drop weight and I'd feel so much better. And then I'd gain weight and then feel even worse about myself, because how could you have done this and again? So it's this negative feedback loop that we're really dealing with in mind. So the first 5 or so lessons really undo duality. And it's to see that and you've got to get this, you have to see that you're thinking thoughts about everything. Everything's a thought. Okay, door, chair, rug, thought. And once you see you're taking thought, you're thinking thoughts, then you start seeing what the thoughts are. And that's when you need to start pulling back on these projections. But let's just take this one step at a time. Lesson 4, great lesson. These thoughts do not mean anything. So I'm thinking thoughts, rug, chair, those thoughts don't mean anything. But now when I put the thought in my mind, mom is sickly and dad is angry, I have a lot of thoughts around that. Dad is angry because he's an alcoholic. Mom is sickly because dad is an alcoholic and she's a codependent. And they get far more involved. And so these thoughts do not mean anything allows us to really take the thoughts and see, am I making a meaning of that thought? And if so, that's when I go to Holy Spirit. my little quick down and dirty prayer is, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently, or Holy Spirit, help me see this through the eyes of love, not judgment. Okay. So this is lesson 4 in A Course in Miracles. In these practice periods, begin with noting the thoughts. Hang on, let me put on my glasses. It's all dancing around. In these practice periods, begin with noting the thoughts that are crossing your mind for about a minute. Then apply the idea to them. If you are already aware of unhappy thoughts, use them as subjects for the idea. Do not, however, select only the thoughts you think are bad. You will find, if you train yourself to look at your thoughts, that they represent such a mixture that, in a sense, none of them can be called good or bad. This is why they do not mean anything. See, good thoughts is an ego ploy to keep us going for the good stuff. And the reality is, no, they're neutral. And there's a whole lesson on these thoughts are neutral. If you're going after the good, you're being ego driven to see only good thoughts. And this is where people get into this, and I've been there, so I understand it. Just think good thoughts. Just think good. Why can't I just think good thoughts? And, then someone will do something and you'll just go, no, just think good thoughts. And you'll go out and get a bowl of ice cream or something to reinforce that. The reality is those quote unquote negative thoughts are gifts that we give to ourselves to see that we're thinking negatively, we're judging something, and then we get an opportunity to go through the process of healing that in mind, which is, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. Okay. Okay, I have a little cheat sheet here. Okay, so my initial thoughts are dad is angry, mom is sickly. And eventually I was able to pull those back and see I saw myself as angry, but I didn't want to admit to it. Oh God, there was so much shame in admitting that I had anger. And then mom is sickly. Again, a lot of shame. I didn't want to say that I was sickly. Although in high school, every high school has one. I was the kid with the back brace. Every high school has one of me. And it was my bad is back. My back is bad. And so I, went through the process. They put me in a brace, blah, 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 blah. Eventually leading to me being a chiropractor, but I'll say more about that later. Basically, I see these thoughts now as the initial separation from being perfect in one loving mind to being separate in a world of duality. Okay. So childhood was spent building on these thoughts of separation, basically victimizing myself. And there were a lot of them. School was not easy for me. So I had a lot of, I don't understand. I have a hard time learning. I can't do this. I can't do that. And these thoughts loop around. See, I didn't get how to correct them as a child. So these thoughts would just loop around, and I'd feel bad about myself every time they would loop around. Now, as an adult and really getting clear on they're my projections, they're my lessons to learn, I can forgive myself for thinking these thoughts and really allow myself just to slip back into perfection, no matter what I'm thinking, or no matter how I didn't do well in school. So what? Who cares? But at the time, there were a lot of people that cared, and it was hard to just slip in and out of it. And again, my bad back was based on mom was sickly. Okay. So, and I was taking care of her because I wanted her to be happy. And I thought the only way to make her happy is to make her better. Didn't work. And it just kept feeding through my life in a beautiful lesson to be learned. I couldn't take care of my mother, but maybe I could take care of the rest of the world. And then picking a profession. Oh, I can take care of people in general. And then I had a skill that actually made them feel better temporarily. But, one of the big things I asked when I was a chiropractor to myself is, how come some people appear to get better for longer periods of time, and other people seem to get better for no time? And it's like, I couldn't quite figure out the missing link. And the missing link was, I was a chiropractor bent on seeing people as broken. So as soon as you walked into my office, I was judging you on, how can I fix you? And that's the way I looked through my life. It was a strong filter throughout my life. And that's why I got into human rights. How can I fix this situation so that people can be happy and better? And the reality is, only I can fix my mind. And I have to trust that others will take on their lessons that they must learn. But I can't do anything for anyone else. And that's why this autobiography of an ego is to really share everything as a lesson I would learn, have learned, am in the process of learning. Okay. Oh, the other thing, and this was a biggie. It still comes back. Hopefully I got it this time, and I'll talk about this at the end, but I'm not okay. I'm just not okay. I'm a crazy person, and I need to keep my mouth shut about my life and what I'm really thinking, because then everyone will know I am not okay. So I'm going against my self-preservation thoughts by sharing to you, because, and I love it, AA has a saying, you're only as sick as your secrets. Well, I'm sharing as many of them as I can in this blog as reference to show you this is the mind training and this is how you deal with these thoughts. Okay. Oh, this is a great quote. You understand that you are, this is from ACIM, and I should tell you this, it's the workbook. You understand that you are healed when, I haven't healed my eyes yet. You understand that you are healed when you give healing. Now, this is not about the healing that the world talks about, healing the body, fix my body, fix your body, fix all bodies. Okay, that's not it. Healing, as talked about in A Course in Miracles, is healing my thinking. So all these judgments start coming from a place of love, not judgment, okay? You accept forgiveness as accomplished in yourself when you forgive. This is big here. You recognize your brother as yourself, and thus do you perceive that you are whole. Now, I'm going to repeat that again, but what this is really talking about, you pull back your judgments. You stop projecting your judgments on someone else and really pull them back and go into contemplation with Holy Spirit, say the prayer, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently through the eyes of love. And then you perceive yourself as whole. And this was a long time too, because again, I saw all of you out there as needing to be fixed. I mean, for me, and again, you'll find it differently in your own script. For me, it was everyone else needed to be fixed. And if only they would fix themselves, my life would work. Oh, yeah, that's a biggie. So this is, you recognize your brother as yourself, and thus do you perceive that you are whole. If I can see my brother as perfection and not judging them, then guess what? I'll see myself as perfection, and I'll quit judging myself. This is mind training, and I'm not saying that you'll understand any of this initially, but start wherever you are. My first judgmental, when I really started taking A Course in Miracles on, and not just reading it, book study. I did book study for years. It didn't do anything. But when I started applying A Course in Miracles, that's when miracles started happening all over. And my first one, I'll never forget. I hated traffic. Okay. So I took something that was obvious to me. I hate traffic. I don't like driving in traffic. I don't like anything about a lot of traffic. So I was driving down Cerrillos Road in Santa Fe. It's the busiest road in Santa Fe. And it was during rush hour. And what I noticed was I would, in my mind, someone would cut me off in front. And I go, God damn it, don't cut me off. And then someone would stop suddenly. Oh, don't stop so suddenly. Those are judgments. So I started really looking at this going, okay, what's going on here? Pull back these projections. And then, well, I have to say one other thing about this. What I got was I was relying on the rear view mirror a lot, okay, in traffic, because I was afraid from getting hit from behind. Why? Because most people get hit from behind. And so initially I heard the guidance was turn up your rear view mirror, just turn it up so you're not using it. Stay focused on where you are right now, not looking at the past. So this went on for some time, and I kept testing it going down Cerrillos during my least favorite time of day, rush hour. And at some point I started and praying all the time while I was driving. And at some point in time, what I really noticed, the first thing I was, oh, it was crowded and someone had their blinker on, and I paused a little and I just said, come on in, move in. And it was like, oh, wow, that's a new thought. I let them in, and I'll probably get to where I'm going exactly when I need to be. So it's kind of like this is the beginnings of mind training. Now, this gets trickier, and I'll be sharing some of my more tricky thought patterns as we go on. But right now, these are the simple ones that anyone can start with. Okay. Um, oh, okay. So this seeing my brother as myself, seeing my brother as whole and complete, was seeing myself as whole and complete. Now, this is a major belief that led me into all my human right causes that I was involved with. Oh, and there were so many. It was, I'm going to make life better for them. But that's a loop. That's an ego loop to keep you focused on something that you think is a kind thing to do. But in fact, it just keeps me expressing victimization of everybody without healing my mind. Because the only one that needs to change their mind about everybody else is me. Okay. There's no one being persecuted, because as soon as I persecute someone else, who am I persecuting? Myself. And then I beat myself up. I'm shameful. It's like, oh my God, why did I think that? But the prayer, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently, immediately brings me into a correction. And some of them, oh God, I'm trying to think. Well, cancer took me about 10 years to clear that. I had a nasty foreclosure. It took me about 5 years to clear that. It just depends on what you're clearing. It may take some time. Be patient. The only reason we have this life is to forgive. That's the reason we're here. The only reason we're here is to forgive. So it's like, keep going. Every thought, keep going. It's well worth it. Okay. 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 Oh, yeah, okay. So and this is again, I'll talk more about it when I get to cancer primarily, but it was this whole idea of body pain and fixing body pain. And that's why I loved chiropractic, because there was some version of it that people would come in, I'd work on them and they would feel better. Now this turned on me at some point, and I'll talk more about it, but I at some point couldn't hear people complain about their bodies, which is kind of problematic as a doctor, because I think half the time we're just paid to be ears for your complaints about what's going on for you. And I had a very hard time with it at some point. And the gist of it was, at some point I even said to patients, okay, I will continue working on you, but it has to be in a certain way. First of all, you can't tell me what's wrong with your body. Just come in and you can either talk about what you love about your life, or we can do it in silence. And while you're doing that, I'll do whatever I do on your body, and then we'll just have a great time of it. And I don't even think I told them while I was doing it, but I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I came home at the end of the day feeling exhausted. And so this was a way that I could come home and really feel good about my life, because you shared what you loved about your life, or I had a lot of quiet time, which was perfect. You know, it was a win-win as far as I was concerned. Okay. Christ's vision, back on the glasses. Christ's vision is just to see everything through loving eyes. Okay. Christ's vision is a miracle. It comes from far beyond itself, for it reflects eternal love and the rebirth of love which never dies, but has been kept obscure. See, my senses, which are a part of this ego world, obscured everything. So Christ's vision pictures heaven, for it sees a world so like to heaven that what God created perfect can be mirrored there. And this is the mind training. If I can correct my vision so that I see everything as eternally happy, no matter what, and I don't make a judgment. If I see someone as angry, and at this point, boy, I can tell you, I worked a lot on anger. I can be with anger out there. I still kind of have to do some deep contemplation work when I truly get angry. But out there, if I can just see them as they're fine, I'm just projecting them as angry, because anger is a lesson that I really need to learn. Okay. And I can't avoid it. In fact, and this is what I did a lot. Um, I avoided anger. I saw that, okay, there was a rape, gang rape with men. My father was angry and he scared the hell out of me. So I made this decision in my mind, I'll be a lesbian. That seemed like that works out well. I just won't deal with men. That's really a bypass, what we call a spiritual bypass. I don't want to deal with it, so I will do something else. Another one, big one that we'll talk about more, is I bought land out in the mountains so that I could be by myself, because I saw that I couldn't be with people very easily without getting yanked around and feeling like I was crazy. So I thought, okay, the way I'll deal with this, I'm just going to be by myself out in the country, and everything will be peaceful and lovely. And it worked for a while, but eventually I noted one day I yelled at one of my dogs, and I just thought, I yelled at my dog. I don't yell at my dogs. But you see, the anger is still there. I didn't clear out the anger in my mind. I was just avoiding dealing with it. Okay. Okay, another thing. Yeah, I had lots of suicide attempts during high school in the early 20s. I did not want to be here. And that was the start of the I'm not okay for this world. I need to leave now. Well, um, I wanted out of this virtual reality. Unfortunately, the only way out of it is to really heal my mind and see things differently. Suicide is a huge bypass, and unfortunately, I'm sure I've done it a lot in past lives, because you're just going to pop back into this world to get these lessons again until you heal them. So I didn't want to be here, but I'm here. And so now it's mine to take on life on life's terms, exactly as it is and as it is not. Okay. Um, Change my mind. That's all there is. Getting out has nothing to do with form, level confusion. Getting out is changing my mind. And a lot of people ask me, well, how do I know when I've healed the thought? Well, I guarantee you just stop having that thought. Um, Oh, I mean, I've had so many negative thoughts about angry men. I just don't think that thought anymore. And if I do, I drop into immediate contemplation because obviously there's some little belief that I didn't clear out that needs to be cleared out. Okay. And this goes into death too, which we'll talk about later, because there's a lot of lessons. There is no death in A Course in Miracles. And basically, death is one of these big beliefs that by doing the mind training, you will eventually clear that, usually just by clearing your mind of all judgments. Because at some point you'll see, well, that's just, my mind is eternal. My mind is the thing that keeps this whole movie in place. And my mind, if I'm judgmental, will just keep looping. However, when I heal it and the loops no longer occur, angry men or, you know, horrible things happening to beautiful people, whatever, it just shifts. So the eternal mind lives forever. You know, that's all I can say. Death is just literally the body is a projection. Anything that's projection doesn't last forever. It's not eternal. The only things that are eternal are God's thoughts of love. And so when you start seeing it from that perspective, it's like death is impossible because I just go back into the loving mind. That's it. No death. Okay. All right. Okay, so now here's another quote from the Manual for Teachers, 4.1. Harm is impossible for God's teachers. They can neither harm nor be harmed. Harm is the outcome of judgment. It is the dishonest act that follows a dishonest thought. It is a verdict of guilt upon a brother, and therefore on oneself. It is the end of peace and the denial of learning, and that's God's learning to love everything. It demonstrates the absence of God's curriculum and its replacement by insanity. That's great. What a great quote. So harm is not only suicide, it's the subtler forms of suicide. If you're experiencing pain, you're harming yourself. It's a suicide. Sickness, same thing. If you don't like, you don't like angry men, you're killing yourself. And you don't want to clear it. You don't want to learn how to love angry men or whatever it is. It's just, it keeps looping, and those loops will get bigger and bigger and deeper. And all I can say is I have a parable. My parables in this life have been rather massively chaotic. Why? Because I was not wanting to change my mind, and it was easier just to stop thinking, okay, I'm not going to think about this anymore. Avoiding. That's what I did really well, was to avoiding what I was thinking. Okay, so healing these thoughts is to see I am thinking them. Key, you have to see your thinking thoughts. And then immediately taking these thoughts to Holy Spirit to see through the eyes of love only. This can take some time. Like I said, cancer took me about 10 years. And anytime I had any thought, I'm suffering from cancer, or, oh, that's my cancer, or whatever, I would just immediately go into contemplation. Okay. So if you are dealing with pain or sickness right now, I say stop talking about it. That's a beginning. That's a start. If you want to talk about it to your doctor or your insurance company, but no one else. It's like, keep those thoughts to yourself, because others can't help you. And really, by saying the thoughts out loud, I have cancer, I'm suffering from headache, I'm tired, you're just digging your grave deeper and faster. And it's best to avoid that. And eventually, hopefully, you'll take it to Holy Spirit to see it differently. And last, before I end this particular video, the power of now, Eckhart Tolle. all I can say is all of this mind training has to happen in the present moment of now. So don't be digging stuff up from your past. This is, what are you thinking now? You know, your mom called and she's angry at you. Oh, good opportunity. Why am I upset that she's angry at me? Work on it then. But don't dig this up. This is right now. Nothing can be changed in the past or the future. It can only be changed now. And that's why a decision to heal is now. So, and I've heard from so many people, oh, I don't want to deal with that right now. Why not? It's like, let's get this handled one way or another. So with that being said, The Power of Now, I highly recommend. If you haven't read it, read it. I must have read it about 5 times, and then I just got the CDs, and they were constantly on in my car. I drove 15 miles to work and back. That particular tape was constantly on. And if I didn't understand something, I would hit repeat and play it again. I was really committing to understanding that book, because most of it, just like A Course in Miracles, when I first read it, made no sense whatsoever. And all I can say is I'm committed to this process. And that's such a blessing. I'm so grateful for that commitment. I want you to have that same commitment too. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to